Imagine a 300-ton steel beast screaming across the savannah, tearing through the haze at 100 miles per hour, while a pride of lions watches from the tall grass. For decades, this land was a graveyard of rusted British rails, where speed was a punchline and progress came to die. But look up. Hovering 30 feet above the dust on massive concrete pillars, a Chinese-built miracle is rewriting the map of Africa. We're not just talking about tracks and ties, we're talking about a 500-mile bullet that turned a 2-day nightmare into a 5-hour dream. This is the Kenya SGR, a high-stakes, multi-billion-dollar gamble that's officially dragging the future into the present, 1 mile of seamless steel at a time. This isn't just another government project gathering dust. We're talking about a 310-mile stretch of pure, high-grade engineering that's fundamentally rewired the pulse of East Africa. For a century, if you wanted to get from the salt air of Mombasa's docks to the high-altitude hustle of Nairobi, you were looking at a soul-crushing 2-4-hour slog on a skeletal colonial track. It was slow, it was broken, and it was killing the economy. Then, the game changed. Enter a $3.8 billion powerhouse play, backed by the heavy-hitting financial and technical muscle of China's Belt and Road Initiative. We're talking about a massive injection of capital, cutting-edge tech, and a relentless workforce that didn't just come to play, they came to build. They laid down a standard gauge railway, SGR, that looks less like a train track and more like a high-speed artery pumping life into the country. The most insane part? They didn't take decades to study the problem. They moved dirt, poured concrete, and welded steel at a breakneck pace that would make a New York foreman's head spin. They hammered out the whole thing in less than 3 years, officially cutting the ribbon in 2017. What used to be a grueling, day-long endurance test has been slashed down to a sleek 5-hour sprint. When you see that engine blur past the horizon, you're looking at a 3-year miracle that didn't just lay tracks. It built a bridge to the next century, proving that when the right money meets the right hustle, the impossible becomes the itinerary. To understand why this new line is such a big deal, you've got to look at the absolute wreck they were dealing with before. For over a century, Kenya was tethered to a ghost, a rusted-out, colonial-era relic built by the British back in the 1890s. They used to call it the Lunatic Line, and by 2016, it lived up to the name. We're talking about a track so ancient and decayed that the trains were literally being outpaced by a guy on a bicycle. It wasn't just embarrassing, it was a straight-up economic stranglehold. Imagine you're a business owner in Nairobi. To get a single shipping container from the coast at Mombasa to your warehouse, you were paying some of the highest freight costs on the planet. It was actually cheaper to ship a crate across the entire Atlantic Ocean than to move it a few hundred miles inland through Kenya. Why? Because the infrastructure was pure junk. Truckers were bottlenecked on crumbling 2-lane roads, and that old train was more of a museum piece than a logistics tool. The human cost was even worse. You had farmers out in the sticks watching their entire harvest rot in the sun because there was no way to get it to market before it turned to mush. Critical medical supplies and life-saving equipment were sitting in warehouses for days while rural clinics ran on empty. Entire communities were basically cut off from the modern world, isolated by bad dirt and rusted iron. Kenya wasn't just stuck in neutral, it was being dragged backward by its own history. The country didn't just need an upgrade, it needed a total systemic heart transplant. Now, you can't just lay down high-speed tracks on top of a giant sandbox and hope for the best. The engineers hit a massive wall early on, the African savanna. We're talking about miles upon miles of loose, shifty sand and unstable soil. If you tried to park a 300-ton locomotive on that, the whole thing would just sink like a lead weight in a swamp. It was a geological nightmare that threatened to swallow the entire $3.8 billion investment before the first spike was even driven. But these guys didn't back down. They went to war with the terrain using some seriously heavy-duty, tough-love engineering. First, they drenched the earth, using water to force those loose sand particles to actually start sticking together. Then came the real shock and awe phase, dynamic compaction. Picture this: giant, specialized cranes hoisting massive steel blocks. We're talking weights the size of a freaking SUV, high into the air, and just letting them rip. These 2 zero-ton hammers would slam into the ground with a bone-shaking thud, sending massive shock waves deep into the earth. Each hit crushed the air pockets out of the soil, packing the sand so tight it basically turned into a subterranean concrete slab. They did this over and over, mile after mile, until that soft savanna floor was transformed into a foundation as hard as rock. It's the kind of gritty, hit-it-till-it-works ingenuity that makes a project like this possible. They didn't just build on the land, they beat it into submission until it was strong enough to carry the weight of a nation's future. But here's where the project goes from being just a big construction job to something straight up visionary. See, most people think of a railroad as a scar across the landscape, a barrier of steel and gravel that cuts the world in half. But the engineers in Kenya, they decided to build a highway in the sky. Instead of plowing through the heart of the ecosystem, they hoisted the entire operation onto thousands of massive concrete pillars, some stretching up nearly 50 feet tall. That's like a 5-story apartment building standing in the middle of the wild. Why go through all that extra sweat and cash? It's simple. Respect for the locals, and by locals, I mean the lions, the giraffes, and the massive herds of elephants. Kenya's national parks are legendary, and the last thing anyone wanted was a high-speed train turning an ancient migration path into a dead end. By elevating the tracks, they created a seamless wildlife corridor. Imagine you're a 1,000-pound bull elephant. In the old days, a fence or a trench would have stopped you cold. Now, you just keep walking. The train screams by way overhead, and down on the ground, life doesn't skip a beat. You've got zebras grazing in the shade of these colossal pillars and lions stalking through the underpass without ever realizing a marvel of modern tech is flying over their heads. It's a masterclass in coexistence. They build a bridge to tomorrow without burning down the world of yesterday, proving that you can have your high-speed progress and your pristine wilderness too. It's not just a railroad, it's a 300-mile handshake with Mother Nature. If you want to talk about true craftsmanship, you've got to look at the ribs of this beast, the tracks themselves. We aren't talking about your grandpa's old clickety-clack railroad. This is high-precision, heavy metal art. It starts in the forge, where raw steel gets blasted to a blistering 2,200 degrees Fahrenheit. At that temperature, the metal is basically glowing like the sun and soft enough to work with. They run it through massive rollers, stretching it out into incredibly straight 330-foot sections of high-grade rail. But here's the real kicker. If you want a train to glide like a Cadillac on fresh asphalt, you can't have gaps between the rails. Every gap is a bump, and every bump is a wreck waiting to happen for a high-speed machine. So, the crews used a badass technique called thermite welding. It sounds like something out of a sci-fi flick. They set up a chemical reaction that generates an insane amount of heat, hot enough to melt steel on the spot, and they pour that molten fire right into the joints where two rails meet. Once that liquid steel cools down and the grinders smooth it over, those separate 330-foot pieces vanish. They're fused together into one single, unbroken ribbon of silk that stretches for hundreds of miles. The result? Total silence. When the SGR rolls through, you don't hear that annoying thump-thump rhythm. It's just a smooth, seamless hiss as the train flies over the steel. It's not just about comfort either. It means less vibration, less wear and tear, and a machine that'll keep screaming across the plains for decades without breaking a sweat. It's engineering at its most elegant and its most brutal. At the end of the day, this project isn't just about moving freight, it's about moving people. You look at the cockpit of one of these massive locomotives, and you won't just see foreign experts at the helm anymore. You'll see young Kenyan men and women, sharp as a tack, calling the shots. We're talking about a massive knowledge transfer where tens of thousands of locals didn't just get a paycheck, they got a world-class education. They learned how to weld, how to manage complex logistics, and how to pilot a multi-million-dollar piece of machinery. That's sweat equity that stays in the country long after the construction crews pack up and head home. But the real magic happens on the platform. Think about the dad who used to spend 2 days in a cramped bus just to see his kids for a weekend. Now he's home in time for dinner. Think about the small-town entrepreneur who can finally get their products to the big city without them spoiling or getting stuck in a mud pit. This railway didn't just lay down tracks. It opened up a floodgate of opportunity. It's connecting families, sparking new businesses, and giving a whole generation the chance to hustle on a global level. It's easy to look at a map and see a line, but when you're standing there, feeling the ground shake as that train blazes past, you realize it's a monument to what happens when you stop saying maybe someday and start saying right now. It's a testament to international teamwork and the raw, unyielding ambition of a nation that refused to be left behind. Kenya took a wild, impossible dream and turned it into a 300-mile reality. It's a message to the rest of the world. The future is here, it's made of steel, and it's moving fast. The Kenya SGR teaches us one thing. No matter how rusted out your past looks, you're never stuck there. If a nation can turn a century of stagnation into a high-speed miracle in just 3 years, imagine what you can do with your own impossible dreams. It's about laying one track at a time and having the guts to rise above the obstacles. What's your SGR project? What's the one big goal you're building toward? Drop a comment below and let's talk about it. If you love this journey, hit that like button and subscribe to join our crew. Thanks for riding with us. I'll catch you guys in the next video.